The question is, how do I know it's my intuition? How do I know that it's true? How do I know the difference between what might just be my mind and my mind projecting what I want? How can I tell if it's really intuition? And on one level, the answer to that is practice. And you might hear that repeated in different of my answers. And the reason I say that is fundamentally as we become more practiced with listening to our intuition, it's much easier to discern what is our normal functions of thinking, what are our patterns of belief, and what indeed might be something other, something that comes from our inner wisdom, from our intuition. And each one of us will experience our intuition differently. So there's not a golden rule on absolutely this is your intuition. Some people might get a sensation, or they might hear their intuition in a certain way, or there might be an image or other aspects of sensory feeling that help them to realize, that's my intuition speaking. There are, however, some factors that can help you discern between is this my mind or is this my intuition. And one of the main points as you are beginning to practice is intuition doesn't have judgment. When understanding, insight, perception comes from our intuition, it's neutral. It's more a fact, and the information might be very simple most of the time. It might just be a simple statement, don't do that, or do that. Our mind will generally have, let's say, a lot more narrative, especially our conditioned part of our mind. If you're someone who has a pattern of pressure, you might find that your mind is saying, you should really be doing that. You should, you ought to, you have to. And your intuition might say, do that. Yes, do that. Very different in tone. And for example, in that same vein, you might have something your mind is saying, you need to make that phone call, you need to do that practical matter that you've been procrastinating about. You really have to do it. You should be doing it. And your intuition might say, no, don't do that. It's not needed. And your mind might still keep coming back and saying, yes, you have to be doing this. And a quiet little voice saying, no, don't do it. And it might not give any reasons why not. Our intuition doesn't necessarily give a whole dialogue. Our mind often does. If you don't do that, then there's going to be consequences, and this consequence will be, and off it can go on quite a storyline. Or our intuition might just be saying, no, don't do that. And it might only be at a later point with hindsight that in fact you realize, I'm so glad I didn't do that, because this and this fact happened, and in fact changed the whole circumstance. If I had done that task, I would have had to redo it all over again, because now this and this has happened. I'm so glad I listened to my intuition. Or for many of us, the scenario is, damn, I wish I'd listened to my intuition. So being aware of, let's say, the judgment factors, the dialogue, of how much dialogue there is in the mind. And in saying that, I'm not discounting the information and the balance of information that the mind will bring in. Our mind is a wonderful, useful tool. However, we have over-relied on our mind. And as a consequence, we have not engaged, not practiced these other facilities of our intuition, our inner wisdom, which are natural, which are present to all of us. But in our Western society, we have trained, educated ourselves to rely on the information of our mind. And it can give us some wonderful and very useful information. But sometimes it doesn't see everything. Sometimes there is information and perception that is beyond its understanding. And this is where the intuition is really helpful. The more that you practice, the more that you develop trust, it becomes more automatic as a part of your decision-making process and perceptive process. This is one reason why I say don't wait for the big issue, the big topic, to start practicing. If you're practicing in everyday circumstances, then your understanding of trust, your understanding of what is and is not your intuition becomes more and more clear. So happy practicing.